Now let's go. Let's come back again to some of the argument that we touched before in the beginning of the podcast. I see that you didn't like particularly the way that the UK and the US government responded to COVID-19 situation. Now let's look at that situation a little bit again. Based on what we have discussed here so far, how would you assess that kind of reaction, or what would you have expected that they do in terms of a better reaction? Very briefly.
Uh, yeah, three things. One, they should have been clearer and confident in their communications. Many times they changed messaging a lot, and many times they contradicted themselves a lot. And this is a new disease for most people in the world. Very few people, study this and understand how a coronavirus works. And for them to have changed their messaging so often created so much confusion. And it, allowed basic things like mask wearing, which every scientist will tell you is important, to become political debate. And I think that the lack of clarity in communication, the lack of confidence, and the lack of courage in communication from these leaders, and I think that's it. It is cowardice for me. Boris Johnson, Donald Trump, the way they led this response is cowardice because they didn't want to say things that were unpopular. So one is clarity of communication. Two is taking the thing seriously. Both of these countries grossly misjudged the level of risk here. Both of them thought it was going to be kind of over pretty soon. They thought, oh, it's kind of like the flu. But if you looked at all the scientists were very clear. This is going to be a worldwide pandemic. It's going to be terrible. Everybody, anybody who listened to science and the people who do this for a living, it was very clear how bad this was going to be. And instead of accepting what the experts said, these leaders, almost fought the experts for political gain. And they appealed to kind of populism and said, oh, don't listen to these so-called experts and academics. They're not like you and me, regular people, and that was again about popularity. And all they were looking to do was secure their own political legacy and to keep voters on side with them, when reality is they should have had the confidence and the courage to say, this is going to be really hard. This is what the scientists are saying. It's not going to be popular, but here's what we need to do. Right? So problem one was a lack of clarity and communication. Problem two was a lack of, to me, spine and willingness to call a problem and to acknowledge that problem is going to be hard to resolve. And then to say to people, this is how we're going to fix it.
Oh, all
And
right.
the third
Yeah,
failure,
please.
and the third failure is the hoarding of vaccines by richer countries and not sharing them all around the world. It is completely selfish. It is ethically unacceptable, and it's also going to lead to the pandemic being worse because these variants will continue to develop as long as there's pockets of unvaccinated people out there. You can vaccinate everybody you want in one country, but if another country hasn't vaccinated anybody, the risk remains for us all. And I think that selfishness and that short-sightedness is a massive ethical, but also practical and operational failing that these leaders have done. So bad communication, not willing to own up to a problem, and not sharing the solution. 100% failure from these guys.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. Now I'm going back again to some of the things that you have said before that I said I've written down because they are going to be very vital for me. In that leadership quality you develop them by really practical. You really need to be there in the community, learning from him. Because if you really go to think about it, you see, when we were growing up as children, because like you said, I'm 41, so I've been learning a lot of things, and I'm still like a baby, okay? Because life is about learning. So right from childhood, we'll be learning things, no? So we'll be developing our leadership quality somehow, no? But some of us can be good leaders, some of us might not be able to become good leader, depending on how we are be able to hone in on this possibility. So what I really want to hook to now is that you are a leadership coach. I want to believe that you have also passed through some of this hardship, some of these difficulties, some of this challenging, like we have talked of as a leader. Because being a leadership coach, of course, means that you are a leader. Of course, you are teaching. I believe that you are practicing what you are teaching. So you have been experiencing some of this challenging. So the question really is, what has been helping you to remain in this journey? Because I look at it also like a journey. So what has been this help to you that have been helping you along the way?
Um, well, what's helped me? I mean, I think I think what helps me is that I really enjoy this work and I'm really passionate about it, right? And I think it is a difficult journey, right? But I imagine so is science, and so is athletics, and so is all kinds of different professional fields and things we can do in life. Many of them are challenging, right? And most of them are challenging. And I think you need to really believe in what you're doing, and you need to you need to be excited, and you need to want to learn. As you said, I like that 41, and I feel like a child. That's how I feel, right? And I think you want something that makes you feel like that, right? Because I think when you take a job or a role, you want to feel two things. You want to feel excitement, and you want to feel a little bit of nerves, because this thing's going to stretch you and challenge you just a little bit, right? And because if it challenges you, that's where you're going to grow. And so I think what helps me is that this is what I'm passionate about, right? And if you're not passionate about leadership, then you shouldn't do it. You know what I mean? If you don't enjoy this, you shouldn't do it. If you don't find it fascinating, if you don't want to be a childlike 40-year-old like me, still learning, then it's probably not for you, right? The other thing that helps me is having people around me that I can talk to, learn from, listen to, share problems with, and that's changed over the years. Sometimes those are people on my team, sometimes they're peers. I right now have a group of CEOs that I work with, and we all started our CEO roles at the same time, and it's just been so much fun and we meet once a month or something like that and just talk for an hour or two, and it's there's no minutes, there's no actions, but we just share where we are, and what's incredible is we have watched all three of our careers play out in similar ways, from like those opening days and the kind of opening challenges to growth and to ups and downs to even thinking about moving on and when's the right time to transition. And I think having those spaces where you can have safe conversations with other leaders or other coaches or whatever it is, I think that's really, really helpful, because you can lead as much as you want in your organization, right? Or your team or your community, but there's millions of organizations and teams and communities out there. And why would we not try to learn from others who are doing the same thing in different contexts? It's almost the arrogance of looking to space and saying, well, there's no more life in space. Really? There's like infinite number of planets out there. Really? We can't learn. We assume that we're the only ones alive in the galaxy and the universe. I struggle with that assumption, right? And just like I struggle with a leader who doesn't see value in connecting with other leaders and learning what they're doing and being inspired by what they're doing. And so that's always been what helps me, and how I keep growing. And what I try to do is just give away that knowledge to other people who don't have those networks. And that's why I write my blog, and that's why I do what I do on Instagram. It's simply to give away what I'm learning, because I think the world needs more people. And I hope that I can be one of those people that other leaders kind of reach out to and find some help from.